There shall be a standing commission of the National Assembly while the Assembly is not in session. The National Assembly shall prepare proposals on the duties, powers, and number of members of the Standing Commission and present such proposals to His Holiness to Dalai Lama for approval. Qualifications for membership of the National Assembly, Article 41. No person shall be qualified to be elected to the National Assembly unless he, is a Tibetan national who has attained the age of 25 (B), is not subject to any qualifications as may be prescribed in this behalf or under any law made by the National Assembly. Sessions of the National Assembly, Article 42. His Holiness the Dalai Lama shall, from time to time, summon the regular National Assembly to meet at such time and peace as may be appointed in this behalf, but 6 months shall not intervene between its last sitting in one session and the date appointed for its sitting in the next session. Subject to the provisions of the Constitution, His Holiness the Dalai Lama may prorogue the National Assembly, or B, dissolve the National Assembly. His Holiness the Dalai Lama's address to and messages to the National Assembly, Article 43. 1. Commencement of the first session after the general election at the commencement of the first session of each year, His Holiness the Dalai Lama shall address the National Assembly and inform it of the cause of its summons. His Holiness the Dalai Lama may send messages to the National Assembly, whether with respect to a bill then pending in the Assembly or otherwise, and the Assembly shall, with all convenient dispatch, consider any matter required by the message to be taken into consideration. Special Sessions, Article 44. Page 16. Special sessions of the National Assembly may be summoned by His Holiness the Dalai Lama at the request of the Kashag or of the majority of the members of the Assembly. All special sessions of the National Assembly shall be opened and closed by a decree of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Right of access of ministers, Article 45. Every minister shall have the right to speak in and otherwise take part in the proceedings of the National Assembly and of any committee of the National Assembly of which he may be named a member, but shall not be entitled to vote. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Article 46. 1. The National Assembly, at its first session after the general election, shall elect 2 members of the Assembly to be respectively the Speaker and Deputy Speaker thereof, and so often as the office of the Speaker and Deputy Speaker becomes vacant, the Assembly shall elect another member to be Speaker or Deputy Speaker, as the case may be. 2. The Deputy Speaker shall vacate his office if he ceases to be a member of the National Assembly or is removed from his office by a resolution of the Assembly by 2/3 majority of all the members of the Assembly. 3. There shall be paid to Speaker and Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly such salary and allowance as may be fixed by the National Assembly by law. Privileges of members of the Assembly, Article 47. No member of the National Assembly shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything, or any vote given by him in the National Assembly, or any committee thereof, and no person shall be so liable in respect of the publication by or under the authority of the National Assembly of any report, paper, or proceedings. When the National Assembly is in session, no member thereof shall be persecuted or arrested for civil or criminal offenses without the previous authorization of the Speaker of the National Assembly, unless he is arrested in the act of committing an offense. 3. In other respect, the privileges of the members of the National Assembly shall be such as may from time to time be defined by the National Assembly by law. Oath or affirmation by members, Article 48. Every member of the National Assembly shall, before taking his seat, make and subscribe before the Speaker, or some person appointed in that behalf, an oath or affirmation according to the form prescribed by law in this behalf. Voting in the Assembly, Article 49, save as otherwise provided in this Constitution, all questions at any sitting of the National Assembly shall be determined by a majority of votes of the speakers of the members present and voting. Other than the Speaker or person acting as Speaker, the Speaker or person acting as much shall not vote in the first instance, but shall have the exercise a casting vote in the case of an equality of votes. 2. The National Assembly shall have power to act notwithstanding any vacancy in the membership thereof, and any proceedings in the Assembly shall be valid notwithstanding that it is subsequently discovered that some person who was not entitled to do so sat or voted or otherwise took part in the proceedings. The quorum of a meeting of the National Assembly shall be 1/5 of the total members of the Assembly. If at any time during a meeting of the National Assembly there is no quorum, it shall be the duty of the Speaker, or person acting as such, either to adjourn the Assembly or to suspend the meeting until there is a quorum. Vacation at seats. Article 50. If a member of the National Assembly is elected, a member of the Council of Regency, or a minister, or becomes subject to any of the disqualifications mentioned in the next succeeding article, or reigns his seat by writing under his hand addressed to the Speaker, his seat shall thereupon become vacant. 2. If for a period of 60 days a member of the National Assembly is absent from all meetings thereof without permission of the Assembly may declare his seat vacant, provided that in computing the said period of 60 days, no account shall be taken of any period during which the Assembly is prorogued or adjourned for more than 5 consecutive days. Disqualification for membership. Article 51. A. 1. A person shall be disqualified for being chosen as, and for being, a member of the National Assembly. A. If he holds an office of profit under the government of Tibet, other than an office declared by the National Assembly by law not to disqualify its holders. B. If he is unsound mind and stands so declared by a competent court. C. If he is an undischarged insolvent. D. If he is not a Tibetan national or is under any acknowledgement of allegiance or adherence to a foreign state. Or E. If he is so disqualified by or under any law made by the National Assembly. Decisions of questions as to disqualifications as members. Article 52. If any question arises as to whether a member of the National Assembly has become subject to any of the disqualifications mentioned in the last preceding article, the question shall be referred to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and his decision shall be final. Penalty for sitting and voting before making an oath or when disqualified. Article 53. If a person sits and votes as a member of the National Assembly before he has made and subscribed an oath or affirmation, or when he knows that he is not qualified or that he is disqualified for membership thereof, that he is prohibited from so doing by the provisions of any law made by the National Assembly, he shall be liable in respect each day on which he sits or votes to fine off. Salaries and allowances of members. Article 54. Members of the National Assembly shall be entitled to receive such salaries and allowances as may from time to time be determined by the National Assembly by law. Introduction and passing of Bill, Article 55. 1. No bill dealing with imposition, abolition, remission, alteration, or regulation of any tax, or regulation of the borrowing of money, or the giving of any guarantee by the government of Tibet shall be introduced or moved except on the recommendation of the Kashag, provided that an amendment making provisions for the abolition of any tax shall need no such recommendation. 2. A bill shall not deem to make provisions for any of the matters specified in the last preceding clause by reason only that it provides for the imposition of fines or other pecuniary penalties, or for the demand of payments of fees for license or fees for services rendered. 3. A bill involving expenditure for the government of Tibet shall be specified in the last preceding clause by reason only that it provides for the imposition of fines or other pecuniary penalties, or for the demand or payment of fees for license or fees for services rendered. 3. A bill involving expenditure for the government of Tibet shall be passed by the National Assembly without the recommendation of the Kashag. 4. Subject to the provisions of the last preceding clause, any member of the National Assembly may introduce any bill or move any resolution or propose any amendment to any bill. 5. All bills or resolutions moved by a private member and all bills proposed by the Kashag, if so required, shall be referred for consideration to committees especially appointed for the purpose. Annual Financial Statement, Article 56. 1. The Kashag shall, in respect of every financial year, cause to be laid before the National Assembly a statement of the estimated receipts and expenditure for that year. 2. The estimates of expenditure embodied in the statement shall show separately a. The sums required to meet expenditure charged upon the revenues or the state under the next succeeding clause, and b. The sums required to meet other expenditure proposed to be made from the revenues of the state. The following expenditure shall be deemed or to be charged on the revenues of the state. Expenditures necessary for the office and dignity of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. B. The salary and allowances of the speakers and deputy speakers of the National Assembly. C. The salaries, allowances, and pensions payable to the judges of the Supreme Court. D. Debt charges for which government is liable, including interest, sinking fund charges, and redemption charges. 4. So much of the estimates as related to expenditure charge upon the revenues of the state shall not be submitted to the vote of the National Assembly. But nothing in the clause shall be considered as preventing the discussion of the National Assembly of any of those estimates. 5. So much of the said estimates as relates to other expenditures shall be submitted in the form of demands for grants to the National Assembly, and the Assembly shall have power to assent or to refuse to assent to any demand, or to assent any demand subject to a reduction of the amount specified therein. Rules of Procedure, Article 57. The National Assembly shall make rules for regulation subject to the provisions of the Constitution, its proceedings and conduct of its business. Restriction on discussion, Article 58. No discussion shall take place in the National Assembly with respect to the conduct of any judge of the Supreme Court in the discharge of his duties, except upon a motion for presenting an address to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, praying for the removal of the judges, and hereinafter provided. Promulgation and of ordinance by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Article 59. 1. If at any time while the National Assembly is not in session, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is satisfied that circumstances exist which render it necessary and urgent for him to take immediate action, he may, after consultation with a standing commission of the National Assembly, promulgate such ordinance as the circumstances appear to him to require. 2. An ordinance promulgated under the article shall have the same force and effect as an act of the National Assembly, but not on the proposal of the National Assembly. Every such ordinance may be amended, altered, or repealed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Assent to Bills, Article 60. When a bill has been passed by the National Assembly, it shall be presented to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama shall declare either that he assents to the bill, or that he withholds assent therefrom, provided that His Holiness the Dalai Lama may, after the presentation to him of a bill for assent, return the bill to the National Assembly with a message requesting that it will consider the bill or specified provisions thereof, and in particular will consider the desirability of introducing any such amendments as he may recommend in his message. Courts not inquire into the proceeding of the National Assembly, Article 61. 1. The validity of any proceedings in the National Assembly shall not be called in question on the ground of any alleged irregularity of procedure. 2. No member of the National Assembly in whom powers are vested by or under the Constitution is regulating procedure or the conduct of business or for maintaining order in the National Assembly shall be subjected to jurisdiction of any court in respect of the exercise by him of those powers. Chapter 7 of the Judicature. Constitution of the Supreme Court, Article 62. There shall be a Supreme Court consisting of a Chief Justice, and, until the National Assembly by law prescribes a larger number of not more than 3 other judges. Every judge of the Supreme Court shall be appointed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and shall hold office during the pleasure of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, unless sooner removed by 2/3 majority of the National Assembly and assented to by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Provided that in the case of appointment, the judge other than the Chief Justice shall always be consulted. 3. No person shall be qualified for appointment as a judge of the Supreme Court unless he is a Tibetan national and has been at least 5 years a judge of a regional court or 2 or more such courts in session, or has been at least 10 years an enrolled advocate of a regional court or of the Supreme Court, provided that for a period of 5 years from the commencement of the operation of the Constitution, His Holiness the Dalai Lama may then dispense with the requirements of this clause in the case of any or all appointments under this article. 4. Every person appointed to judge in the Supreme Court shall, before he enters upon his office, make and subscribe before His Holiness the Dalai Lama an oath of or affirmation according to the form prescribed by the National Assembly by law in this behalf. Salaries etc. of judges, Article 63. There shall be paid to the judges of the Supreme Court such salaries, allowances, and pensions as may be specified by the National Assembly by law in his behalf. 2. The salaries, allowances, and other privileges of the judges of the Supreme Court shall not be reduced or altered to the detriment during the term of office. Jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, Article 64. The Supreme Court shall be the highest appellate court and shall be the exclusive head of the judicial administration of the state and shall exercise all such powers as are necessary for the discharge of its functions in accordance with such rules and regulations as may be made by it with the previous approval of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. 2. An appeal shall lie to the Supreme Court from any judgment, decree, or final order of a regional court or tribunal, whether in a civil, criminal, or other proceeding, if it satisfies the conditions which shall be laid down by the National Assembly by law in his behalf, provided always that an appeal shall lie as of right to the Supreme Court if the case involves a substantial question of law as the interpretation of this Constitution. So 26 minutes. 26. 26.5. Special leave to appeal. Article 55. Notwithstanding anything in this Constitution or any other law specifying the conditions subject to which an appeal shall lie to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court may, in its discretion, grant special leave to appeal from any judgment, decree, sentence, or order in any cause or matter passed or made by any court or tribunal. Rules of Court. Article 66. Subject to the provisions of any law made by the National Assembly, the Supreme Court may, from time to time, with approval of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, make rules for regulating generally the practice and procedure of the court. Obtaining opinion of the Supreme Court, Article 67. If at any time it appears to His Holiness the Dalai Lama that a question of law or fact has arisen, or is likely to arise, which is of such a nature and such public importance that is expedient to obtain the opinion of the Supreme Court upon it. He may refer the question to that court for consultation, and the court shall, after such hearing as it thinks fit, report to His Holiness the Dalai Lama its opinion thereon. Chapter 7, of Regional Government. Regions of the state, Article 68. 1. The entire territory of the state shall be divided into regions as follows. A. 2. The extent of each region shall be determined by the National Assembly with approval of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Regions, Governors, Article 69. 1. In each region there shall be a chief executive officer directly appointed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who shall be styled the governor of the region. 2. There shall also be a deputy governor in each region to be elected by the representative and regional councils and approved by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. 3. The governor and deputy governor shall hold office for such term as may be determined by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in consultation with the National Assembly. 4. During the absence, illness, or other inability of the governor, the deputy governor shall execute the office and functions of the governor. 5. The salaries of the governors and deputy governors shall be fixed by the National Assembly and shall not be reduced during their respective terms of office. Constitution of Regional Councils, Article 70. 1. There shall be a regional council in each region consisting of such number of members as may be determined by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in consultation with the National Assembly. 2. The members of the regional council shall be elected by persons would be people. Qualified to vote for the election of members of the National Assembly. The election shall take place at such times as the governor shall direct in consultation with the Kashag. 4. Each regional council shall continue for 3 years from the date of its first meeting and shall not be subject to be dissolution save by affluction of time. Sessions of Regional Council. Article 71. The governor of each region shall be notification fixed by such times for holding the sessions of the regional council as he may think fit, provided that there shall be a session of every regional council at least 3 times in every year, so that a period of 4 months shall be intervened between the sitting of the council in one session and its first sitting in the next session. Chairman of the Regional Council, Article 72. The governor and, in his absence, the deputy governor of the region shall preside over the meetings of the regional council, and the governor shall make rules for the conduct of its proceedings, and consultation with the Kashag, and in accordance with such laws as may be enacted in this behalf by the National Assembly. Powers of Regional Councils, Article 73. Subject to provisions of the Constitution and the laws enacted by the National Assembly, the Regional Council may make regulations in relation to matters coming within the following cases of subjects. A. Public health and sanitation, including the establishment, maintenance, and management of hospitals and charitable institutions. B. Primary and secondary education, subject to such laws as may enacted by the National Assembly. C. Local works and undertakings with the region. D. Roads, bridges, and other constructional works. E. Social welfare and public assistance, regulations, agriculture, animal husbandry, and small-scale industries. G. The imposition of punishment by fine or enforcing the regulation of the region made in relation to any matter coming within any of the classes of subjects enumerated in this article. And H. Any other subject in respect of which the National Assembly may be in law delegate of the power of making regulations to the Regional Council in case of the conflict between a regulation made by a Regional Council and a law passed by the National Assembly, that the latter shall prevail. Submission of reports, Article 74. At the end of each year, the governor of the region shall submit to the Kasha a detailed report regarding the work done by the Regional Council, and all such reports shall be laid before the National Assembly. Chapter 10. Reorganization. Reorganization of public departments, Article 75. As soon as possible after the commencement of this Constitution, His Holiness the Dalai Lama shall appoint all public service commission to make recommendations for such reorganization and readjustment of the departments of the public service as may be necessary. Public Service Commission, Article 76. After the provisions of the Constitution have come into operation, His Holiness the Dalai Lama shall appoint a permanent public service commission with such powers and duties relating to the appointment. On decline, pretreatment, and superannuation of public officers as His Holiness the Dalai Lama may, in consultation with the National Assembly, determine. And that's it. Chapter 10. Amendment of the Constitution. Procedure of the Constitutional Amendment, Article 77. This Constitution, or any provision thereof, may be amended, altered, or varied by an act passed by 2/3 majority of the total number of the members of the National Assembly and assent to His Holiness the Dalai Lama. His Holiness the Dalai Lama may direct that any such amendment be submitted to a referendum, and any such amendment shall be come into force unless it has been ratified by a 2/3 majority of the electors qualified to vote for elections to the National Assembly. 3. Nothing in this article shall be deemed to confer any power or authority on the National Assembly to affect in any manner the status or authority of His Holiness the Dalai Lama as the spiritual head of the state.